Hey everyone, hey, it's good to be back with you this week. We're on episode 33 of the Roundhouse Rundown. I'm Senator Craig Brandt. Today we're going to provide information that you need to know about recent measures New Mexico has mandated regarding electric vehicles. We had a new one just a couple weeks ago, but this has been a situation that we've been hitting on, talking about for several months where first mandate came out from the Environment Department, pushing that dealers had to have, I believe it's 40% of their inventory as EVs. Now, right now, they sell about 3% of their inventory, or 3% of their sales are electric vehicles, and that they want that to be 40% by 2030. Now, guys, 2030 may sound like a long ways away, but it's only 6 years. And there's a lot of concerns. And these start actually next year with some lower percentages and then grow to that 40%. And we're going to have an expert on next week that's going to help us delve a little bit more into that side of it, where we're talking about the dealerships and what it means to you and me. But I think one of the main things it means to you and me is that our choices when it comes to what we buy are going to be strictly limited by the state. So, here we are as Republicans, and we really believe in freedom. We want you to have the freedom to be able to go out and buy the vehicle that you need to meet your needs, or hey, even what you want, right? Um, to meet some of your wants. If you want an electric vehicle, then I'm all for you being able to buy an electric vehicle. But if you don't want an electric vehicle, you shouldn't be forced by the government to buy one. Now let's look at some of the stuff in just a couple of weeks ago. We'll get back to vehicles a little bit, and then we're going to hit vehicles pretty hard next week, where we talk about how this is affecting our dealers and how it's going to affect you and me as the consumers. But this week we had or 2 weeks ago, the construction industry division. So now all these divisions are run from the executive. So when we talk about these divisions and the executive branch and the environment board, those are all appointed by the governor. So the buck stops with the governor. So I'm just going to say the governor mandated through her CID board that on the Energy Conservation Code, that effective for all residential and commercial permits beginning July 30th, which means it's already in effect. This was very, very quick, by the way. They didn't do hardly no one really knew about it until it was done. This was just one of those super fast things. I'm not even sure they followed all the right rules when it came to putting this in place. And I'm sure the construction industry is looking at that. But they're requiring that every home and commercial facility that's built implement electric vehicle supply equipment. So what does that mean? Well, it means for you and me as the consumer, and I'm really going to deal with mostly residential because most of us aren't building a commercial building. But I will tell you the increased cost in commercial is going to affect you when it comes to the price that those companies are having to charge, because we know that they have to recoup that cost somewhere. And guess what? You and I, as the end consumer, we're the ones that are going to recoup that cost from, right? So nothing is going to be for free for you and me. They're going to have to recoup that cost. But what it means for you and me on a home is that it's going to add an additional about $10,000 per home. Right now, for the second time in history, and it's just happened in the last few months, the median price of a home in Albuquerque, just in yesterday's paper, was $370,000. That is substantially higher than it was just a couple of years ago. Young people just wanting to buy their first home, it's almost impossible for them with the ridiculously high interest rates and with the cost of housing almost doubling in New Mexico in just the last 10 years, and seeing at least a 30% increase since just 4 years ago. It's almost impossible for anyone to afford to buy a home today. Yet just 4 years ago, all of us could buy a home at normal pricing and really great interest rates, right? So we went just in 4 years from being able to get I got an interest rate for my home at 2.75% to today that same mortgage would have cost me right around 7%. Now I want to tell you the price of that, the difference in price is massive. That is a huge difference. And so we're having some flashing at our lights, so, we'll see. But that's just a huge pricing difference. It's massive. A home that you could have bought 4 years ago would have cost you about $1,000 a month. Put in your taxes and your insurance, you're probably looking at $1,600 a month. Today is gonna cost you well over $3,000 a month. And yet our median income hasn't gone up like that. So what we've done is we've made New Mexico less affordable to live in, and it's not just New Mexico, but I'm gonna deal with New Mexico, right? And now our state government, under the current governor, has come in and now they're gonna mandate another $10,000 be added to your home cost. Now, what do you get for that? You get a plug-in for an electric vehicle that you may or may not want, that you may or may not have, um, and, maybe you don't ever want one. Maybe you think that they're not as good for the environment as everyone's telling you, and I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. But $10,000 more to the cost of your home to have the contractor put one of these in as he's building a home. Now, there are a lot of issues around this, but the first thing I wanna talk about is literally, we're a representative form of government, right? We're a republic. So you elect me to come up here. You elect all of us as senators. There's 42 senators. There are 70 House members. You elect all 112 of us to come up here to look at bills and to put those bills into place if we agree that they're good for the economy, that they're good for our voters, that they're good for you. Well, this very issue came up in 2023 in Senate Bill 77. That bill made it through the Senate on partisan vote, made it through the Senate, and died in the House. So the House looked at it and said, no, 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 that's way too much. It's going to cost too much for the consumer. The consumer can't afford that. I think they were right, and they killed the bill. But our executive has been showing that they don't care that we're a republic. They want to be a dictatorship, not even a democracy, because a democracy, we would send it to you, the voter, and you would decide whether you want your home prices to be increased by $10,000 for something you may or may not want, right? So the executive, as a dictatorship, decided they would take this idea and just mandate it. And that's what they did. So if you don't like that, then you need to make sure you go vote in November, vote in the right representation that will take away the ability of the governor to mandate things like this. Because we're seeing this over and over and over again. It's the government and the executive just overstepping their authority and mandating things because, quite frankly, our legislature has either given away their authority or they're unwilling to take a stand against the executive because they're in the same party. They're afraid to stand up to her. Well, let me tell you, someone that carried a bill, well, I carried a veto override against a Republican governor. So I'm going to tell you right now, you can stand up against governor even when they're in your own party. If you believe what they're doing is wrong and is wrong for the constituents, you should stand up to them. And the constituents need to vote out anyone that's unwilling to do that. And I'm going to tell you, for the last 6 years that this governor's been in office, the Democrat legislators have been unwilling to stand up to her. Well, let's talk about the electric vehicles. Why is this being pushed so hard that we want to increase the cost of your home? Well, you go back to the other mandate that was passed a couple of months ago that said that 40% of the vehicles sold or carried on the lot have to be EVs. Well, this is to push people to buy EVs. It's to take away one of the excuses that people use. Well, I don't have a way to charge the EV at home. So now we're going to all be required to put in $10,000 system to charge an electric vehicle. But right now we have 10,000 approximately, give or take a few, EVs in New Mexico. Now we're talking about just fully electric vehicles here. We're not talking about the hybrids. We'll get into that also in a minute. We're talking about just the fully electric vehicles. There's about 10,000 of them. The Teslas, the the Mustang, which I don't even know how they call that thing a Mustang, right? It is like horrible. I mean, if you're going to make a Mustang electric vehicle, make it look like a Mustang. Don't make it look like a Prius. My word. Anyway, I'm a Mustang lover, and that one really offends me. But we have about 650,000 traditional vehicles, so non-EVs, gas-powered, hybrids, whatever. There's about 650,000 of those. So this minuscule number of electric vehicles, and now we're going to be mandated that we go and buy an electric vehicle. Well, why don't we let the consumer decide what the consumer wants? Why don't we let you decide what you need? Some of you don't live in an area that's really close to town that you can have an electric vehicle. Heck, we have a lot of people that live, our state is very remote. You talk about remote states, we have a massive state with a very small population, and we live all over the place. You've got the tribal communities that they're going to have electric vehicles out there? I don't think so. Some of them don't even have, you know, uh, currently reliable electricity. Their electricity goes out all the time. Are they going to want a vehicle that's electric that can't be charged? And what happens if they have an emergency? Are they going to be able to get their loved one to medical care in time when they go out to use their electric vehicle and it's not charged up because the power went out yesterday? These are things that are not being considered. And you're going to say, well, 60% of the vehicles that are being sold can be gas. Yeah. But what are they going to make up? What are they going to look like? And what about the 40% of people that are being told you've got to buy an electric vehicle? Maybe we should say everyone that lives in Albuquerque has to buy an electric vehicle, so I don't have to. So my constituents don't have to. But I'll tell you, this is wrong. To mandate that we have to go and buy these vehicles. I just went out and bought a vehicle. Okay. And one of the things I looked at was gas mileage. It's one of the things I looked at. And I looked at hybrids and I looked at gas. And by the time I figured out the cost increase of the vehicle to go with a hybrid, because I will not do electric only. Once I looked at the cost of just going of hybrid, it was going to take me like 10 years to make up the cost difference. That isn't worth it for most of us. Sometimes I keep a vehicle 10 years, but not very often. So what about that? You're going to be forced to buy, you need to be able to make the choice. Why do Democrats continuously want to take away our freedoms? Want to take away our ability to make decisions for us, for ourselves? When it comes to your children's education, they want to force all your kids into the schools they think are the right schools. They don't want you as a parent to have the right choice to make. In fact, it seems like there's only one thing they're pro-choice about. I won't even get into that, but you know what I'm talking about. Everything else they want to mandate for you. Shoot, you got some Democrats that want to tell you you can't have larger than 12 ounces of soda a day. It's ridiculous. You want to mandate everything in your life. I think that we need to have the freedoms to choose what is right for us in our situations and in our lives, as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. Well, let's talk about the infrastructure. Right now, we don't have the infrastructure to have all these electric vehicles coming on the market. We don't have the infrastructure for it. Who's going to pay for that? Well, I'll tell you who's going to pay for it, you and me. They're going to have to raise our electric bill to make sure that the rural communities have a high enough uh, infrastructure, a strong enough infrastructure to handle all this. We might have that in Rio Rancho. Although I will tell you, there's older communities in Rio Rancho that they do not. They can't support electric vehicle charger in their home. And to make it where they can, P&M, my electric company, do a great job. P&M would have to come out and update all the transformers. That cost a lot of money. And the last time I talked to P&M about transformers, it was taking them 2 or 3 years to get a transformer in that they order. Yeah, supply chain issues still. So this mandate starts next year. There's no way that P&M can do it. And the mandate on your homes starts July 30th, already started. Someone's going to have to pay for that. And what we really know is that this is not the greatest thing for the environment, folks. We keep being told that this is to save the environment. Oh, it's to save the environment, to save the environment. Yet these EVs take a huge amount of resources that are being mined, strip mined in other countries, because we don't even mine these resources in the United States. Most of these batteries are being made in China, where they don't care about air pollution. And then you got Toyota, who they publicly stated that we should be focusing on hybrids, not on electric vehicles. Why? Because it takes the same amount of these rare earth minerals to make one hybrid. I mean, to make 10 hybrids as it takes to make one electric vehicle. So if we really cared about the environment, we'd actually be looking more at the hybrid model and getting the price of those down so that I could afford one, so that it would make sense financially for me to do one. This measure is unnecessary, it's costly, and potentially it's unfeasible. It's undoable on a large scale. Well, next week we are going to be joined by Auto Dealers Association President Ken Ortiz, and he's going to talk about these. And we're hoping to get an auto dealer here to talk about how this is affecting you as a customer and how this is affecting them as auto dealers. What are they seeing and what are they going to be seeing as a result of these mandates? So I hope you'll join us next week as we go a little bit more in depth and talking about how this affects you personally. I hope this was informative. Stay with us as we continue to fight against the Democrat governor and the Democrat legislators attacking your rights as a free American. Stay with us. Join us next week. Hope to see you again. If you have any comments, send them to us on our Facebook page, or you can always email me at Senate40, and that's FORTY @gmail.com. Have a great day. Bye, y'all.